For thousands of years I lay dormant. Who disturbs my— Oh, wait. A new champion. I probably have something to say about them. Hello there. Nice to see you again. Welcome back to the Rant series. It's been a fair bit of time since the last one, so I might be a bit rusty. So in today's rant, I'm going to be ranting on the newest champion added to League of Legends. This is Viego, otherwise known as the Ruined King. He's an AD assassin style character, and is specifically designed to be played in the jungle. However, he has received play in both mid and in the top lanes. While researching for this video, I wanted to mention that Blade of the Ruined King, the item, has been in the game since 2012, and it was added in a patch that made a remade version of Twisted Treeline. And that just reminds me of back when that game mode was a thing. I made a Twisted Treeline video, by the way, before it got deleted, if you want to check that out. Self-promotion's a bitch. And while I was looking through those patch notes, I noticed they had a section in the notes where they made changes to co-op versus AI. Yeah, it was a much simpler time back then now, wasn't it? So, this means that we're discussing a character who's been hinted at the game since like 8 to 9 years ago. It's safe to say this guy was a very long time coming. Well, you didn't come here for a history class now, did you? Why don't we get started?
You are not the hero of this tale. You are not anything.
Before I go into his kit, I want to address a few things. One is I'm going to be going over the passive last, because the passive itself sort of ties into everything, and I also need to explain the ultimate first before I even get into that. So we're going to save the passive for last. We're going to start with the Q. There is one thing I want to mention, and that is Viego's lore. If you aren't into lore as much as I am or as other people are, I'll leave a timestamp in like the left corner for where you can skip to if you don't want to hear this section. But for those who stayed and want to hear my opinions on Viego's lore, I just want to say that he is already promising in that front. It's really cool to learn about this character who's been engraved in the story of this game for such a long time. And it's nice to finally understand, and not even finally understand, to fully understand what truly corrupted the Blessed Isles and made it into the twisted area that it is today. And I know some people don't really like how Viego was designed. When you hear Ruined King, you probably think of like Doom Guy levels of badassery, but instead we got like this really scrawny, weird accented fucking soy boy. But I actually really like how Viego's portrayed in this game. I like that he's just some whiny king's kid who is exponentially pissed off that his wife died, that he's going to destroy everything in his path just to try to save her and see her again. It gives a more sympathetic message to this twisted tale of his. And this was such a breath of fresh air after reading some of the worst lore I think I've read in a very long time. No! No! And lore that, while yes is interesting, doesn't really lead to much, even though I think the character and the lore of that character is really cool. I'll leave a link in the description if you haven't read Viego's story. It's a very good read. I recommend that if you like the League lore and you haven't tried out Viego's yet, go give it a read. It's a very good story, and if you want something to read and you're bored, or you want something to look into to pass your time, why not read his lore and see if you like League's lore. It's a massive universe with a lot of stories, so you might find something you like, and I like reading in my pastime. So, with all that out the way, why don't we start getting into the kit, and we start off with the Q. Viego's Q is called Blade of the Ruined King. Before I go into the active, I should explain the two passives that this ability comes with. The first one is very simple. It's just increased basic attack damage on hit to enemies as well as monsters. This bonus damage doesn't scale with AD like normal ones like this would do. Instead, it actually scales with the target's current health, which is a very nice status. It's a very simple passive. I'm already done explaining it. The next one is a bit more complicated. So, Viego only has, I think, 3 damaging abilities, but for the 2 that are the damaging basic ones are his Q and his W. But these 2 abilities, if they hit an enemy, will apply a mark on them for 4 seconds. Viego's next basic attack against the marked enemy will have it so he strikes twice with his basic attack. dealing AD and AP damage, as well as healing him for a portion of the damage done. This secondary hit not only procs on hit effects, but it also can be affected by crit chance. It's a very good passive, and it's one of the main ways Viego actually gets his damage out, since Viego is not an ability-based assassin character, but rather a basic attack reliant one. Now we got the passives out of the way, we're going to talk about the actual active, which is way simpler than you may think, and honestly not as good as the actual passives it gives. So Viego will thrust his blade in a targeted direction, very similar to that of how Pyke and Pantheon thrust their uncharged Qs. This will do physical damage to each enemy hit, and the damage is increased by crit chance and also scales with AD. This also does bonus damage against monsters, and applies the mark from the passive that I was talking about earlier. It's a very okay ability. To be honest, you're not going to really notice it doing a lot of damage. The main point of it really is so that Viego can put that mark on enemies. But that mark is very strong for Viego. It's one of the main ways he keeps his sustain as well as damage inside of fights. And this Q is not only one of the ways he can proc that mark, but is the ability that gives him the ability to have that mark. In my opinion, from the basic abilities, it's definitely the best, but not even for the active. It's mainly for the passive. That's the main strengths for this ability. Something you're going to notice with Viego that I'm going to dive into is that Viego's abilities are not meant to be insanely strong for a big reason that we'll talk about later. But for now, with the Q out of the way, I'll just say that it's a very simple but nice ability. It's the main way he's going to do his damage, and it's nothing too harmful. I like it. Viego's W is called Spectral Maw. It is an ability that Viego has to charge or can charge. The ability is a pseudo between a dash and a projectile stun. When charging, Viego is slowed down by 15%, and the range of the projectile that he throws, as well as the duration of the stun if the stun hits, increases. Something to note is that charging does not increase how far Viego will dash forward, and the dash also has no capabilities of going over the walls or terrain at all on the rift. And I'm already having a problem with this because I need to talk about something. What the fuck is this hitbox? Listen, Viego, I get that you are missing your wife and everything.
She is my world.
There's a lot of things going on, but you are the fucking ruined king, man. You created the Shadow Isles. You are literally trying to take over the entire world. And this is all you can muster? This ability and this hitbox has the fucking girth of Flat Stanley. This hitbox is terrible. This is honestly one of the worst hitboxes I think I've seen in the entire game. And I know that some people are going to argue the W isn't mainly used for the stun potential half the time. It's mainly used for Viego's combo, which I'll get into. And while yes, that is a thing, here's the thing about that stun in the combo. And I want to talk about this. That stun lasts for 0.25 seconds. I breathe longer than how long it takes for this stun to go. I'm just so confused in this ability, because when it comes to Viego in the jungle, this is his main engage tool. This is the only source of CC he has in his kit other than his R, which even then is very situational, and you're not going to use in a gank right away. If you use it in a gank right away, I have no idea what to say to you. Not only that, but the W also scales with AP. I don't know if Viego is going to ever build AP in his kit, but I mean, the main source of damage from this is, of course, the mark it applies. Of course, basic attacks are Viego's forte. I mean, that's what his sword item is mainly used for. This is just an odd ability, because it's his main engage, and when it hits, it doesn't seem that bad, but there are just things about it that just makes it so fucking garbage to use sometimes. I don't know what to say about this ability, because, like, on one hand, it's essential to his combo and his engage and his damage, but on the other hand, there are things about it that just nerf its potential for no reason. The W, again, is a ability that's sort of just meh. It's not horrid, it's not bad, it's just meh. The last of Viego's basic abilities is his E, otherwise known as Harrowed Path, or Harrowed Path, however you say it. And it's actually a very simple ability in nature. Viego will throw some mist, and if the mist hits a terrain, then it'll spread around that area. While inside, Viego is camouflaged and gains bonuses in both attack speed as well as movement speed. If he attacks, he'll break the camouflage and lose the bonus movement speed, but he will still keep the attack speed increase. It's a cool ability. I mean, when you see it get thrown out, it looks really cool, but there's one problem with this. Why is it so obvious to gank on this guy? Now, some may argue that Warwick and Kayn have very easy ways to know when they're going to gank. There's very obvious indicators for those, but for Viego, you can literally see when the mist is coming forward. You can tell Viego is coming because why the fuck would he throw mist randomly at the wall? I don't get, like, why they made this so obvious. And again, this is part of his combo, this ability. It's, again, something weird to talk about. And also, something to note is this also has AP scaling in it for how fast the bonus movement speed you get is. Which, I mean, again, I don't know why you'd build AP on this guy, but I guess it's something. It's just a weird ability, because this is his main ganking tool. Like, the W is his main engage when he actually gets to the lane. This is how he's supposed to show up. This is the only source of movement speed he has, other than boots. And it's so obvious. It's just odd. Viego's ult is called Heartbreaker, and all things considered, it's actually really easy to explain. It's basically a leap. Viego will jump up into the air and then crash land and cause an explosion. Every enemy in that explosion is hit by it, dealing damage towards them. The enemy, I think, that's either closest to Viego or has the lowest amount of health stays inside that radius and takes extra damage because they're taking a direct blow from the sword. The other characters, if it hits multiple, will be bounced back away from Viego to isolate the other guy so Viego can kill them. It's a pretty simple ultimate. One thing to note is that this is really Viego's only leap. This is the only way he can actually travel over walls and terrain unless he has flash or blast cone. It's actually a pretty decent ability. I'd say out of all of his base abilities, it's probably the most fun to use. I love some of the quotes he says during it, like the one where he just shouts out his wife's name. I don't know why I find that one funny. I can't say much else about this ultimate. It's literally just a jump and then you crash land. No, wait. There is something I got to explain. But that's when we get to the passive. So now, ladies and gentlemen, we finally get to the cherry on top of his entire kit. Viego's passive is called Sovereign's Domination. Do you remember old Mordekaiser? How, like, he would take the ghosts of enemy champions or dragon? Or maybe, like, that weird ice ghost passive thing Lysandra has? Well, instead of having those be AI characters, why don't we just take the player's body? And that's what Viego's passive is. So when Viego kills or assists on an enemy champion's death, a Mist Wraith version of that champion spawns. If Viego basic attacks it, he'll heal for a portion of his health and become untargetable to everything except for turrets. When the interaction is done, Viego will turn into the enemy champion killed. And I don't mean like a Silas effect where you just take their abilities and all that. No, I mean you become that champion. So that means you're taking their stats, you're taking their items, you're taking their abilities. So this means I could be like a 10-0 Viego, but if I turn into an 0-10 Ahri, then that means I have the stats of Ahri and the kit of Ahri, not my Viego. Though if I turn into Ahri, I'm pretty sure all my boys in the audience know why the hell I'm turning into Ahri. Yes, sir! Something also to note is that Viego cannot use the character's ultimate, consumables, or buy from the item shop. You only get their stats and their basic abilities and passive. Almost forgot to mention that you do gain a 10% movement speed when running towards an enemy champion in this state. And, like I mentioned in the ultimate, like I said before, or what I was hyping up to, Viego will get a free cast of his ultimate when he transforms into a new character. And I'm gonna be completely honest with you, this passive completely saves Viego in my eyes. This passive is what makes Viego so much fun to play, because there's just so much counterplay and thought play that goes into it. Like, out of anything in his kit, like, when I read off his abilities, they seem pretty simple enough, but this legitimately takes skill to do, because there's so many factors that go into you using this passive effectively, whether it's the character you're turning into, like if maybe you're turning into their AP or AD carry, or maybe you are turning into their tank. You gotta understand which characters you're turning into, and you gotta use that to your advantage. That means that you actually have to think about what characters you turn into, and you have to know the basic kit and fundamentals of each character. It's not like Silas, who I thought his ult was completely brain dead, and ults are not really that hard to understand in this game. I don't find Silas hard at all in that aspect. No, I mean, Viego, you have to know what every champion does in the game, because you need to use that passive to the full extent of its power. That is where the strength lies. And that's not just the only thing that comes into factoring when it comes to this passive. Remember what I said earlier, you become untargetable during this interaction, and you heal for a portion of your health. You get a free cast of his ultimate, you run faster at champions. All these things you gotta consider when you transform into a new character, and that's so fucking cool. The player dynamic for that is so sick, and the amount of outplays you can have. Like, look at this play here that I showed off earlier. I'm gonna die either way, but because I transform into this, Warwick misses his ult, and I'm able to kill the Teemo. That's so cool, and that takes thought to do. I know people will complain that his passive's too strong because they don't like that he becomes untargetable and that he heals and that he can turn into any champion if they're like strong or anything. But unlike a majority of passives in this game that just give you random effects for the sake of giving you random effects so you can win fights, you have to think when you do this. And I fucking love that. That is so sick. That's one of the coolest passives in the entire game. I sound like an absolute fanboy for this, but I fucking love this shit. Because I feel so clean when I do something cool with this passive. I know that probably sounds like the only thing I find good about Viego is his passive. I mean, I'll get into it, but his passive, in my opinion, is easily the best part of his kit. It's the most fun, it's the most broken, and it's so cool to see. I know it was buggy on release, and I know it was buggy recently. Like, I know that there was, like, some Dark Seal glitch that happened with him, but, you know, I can let that aside because this shit's just so fucking cool. So, what are my final thoughts on Viego? This is probably one of the weirdest rants I think I've ever made, and because I'm so conflicted on it. On one hand, I can see why people think Viego is a broken champion, and why people say he needs nerfs, or he's too strong, or sometimes I've seen people permaban him. And then there are other people who say that Viego is a dogshit champion who's overrated and doesn't deserve the hype that he's getting. And some people are even saying, or at least I've heard people say, that he needs a rework because his kit is broken or it's just not good. And I can understand that. Like, for example, that W I was ranting about earlier, just that hitbox and its nerfed potential. Like, the fact that it can't hop over walls is actually so detrimental to Viego's ganking path. It's so dumb. But then you get him in the mid lane, and I know, like, listen, I'm a huge fan of Scooch. I know Scooch said that you shouldn't play him in mid lane, but you're fucking wrong for that. Viego is so good in the mid lane right now. Like, in my opinion, he's one of the best AD mid laners in the game. Some people may say he's the best in the game right now. But, again, that's just my opinion. I'm so conflicted on this guy because I love so much shit about him. And he's so much fun to play. And I've just been spam playing him every moment I can get him because he's just so much fun to me. But I can understand why people don't think he's amazing. And I guess, in a way, he kind of failed as a champion release because Viego is supposed to be, like, the next big jungler. But then you get me, and I think that he's a better mid laner than he is in the jungle. But then again, over the history of League, we've seen characters who were built specifically for other lanes in mind, but then have transitioned to other lanes because of their kit. I'm so conflicted, but I just don't care how people think about this champion because he's just so much fun to play. I'll leave it at this. I think Viego was a pretty fun release, and I really like the way he was released. I love his character and his lore. I even love his design nowadays. Like, I know some people hate it. I actually love his design. I love his gameplay, his voice lines, his just everything about this character just clicks with me. And I know other people aren't going to have the same opinion as me, but that's the point of opinions. We can all have our own, and we can all discuss our opinions freely. That's sort of the whole point of discussion. I'm just so conflicted because normally when it comes to the rant series, I'm ranting on characters who I think are broken. Like, literally look at all the past rants I've made, and they're all champions who I found either broken at the time or I still find broken today. But Viego, I just find it so odd how conflicted the community is on him. Because you either really like Viego and you think he's a very good character, or you think Viego's dog water. I don't know. But before I end this video, I would like to say thank you all for watching. I won't lie, this video was supposed to come out weeks ago, but my other monitor died, and something to know about me is I like to edit during class, so it's really hard for me to edit when I have to constantly go into the classroom and then, you know, go out, because I do remote learning. I'm not a in-school person, I am a remote learner, so I have to do it all from my computer. So that's why it took like a month for this video to come out. I know Viego's been released like a while ago. I'm pretty sure like there's like 2 patches that have come out, or at least there's another patch coming soon. But hey, at least I finally got the video out, and I finally uploaded something for the Rant series. I would like to say we recently hit 50 subscribers, and I know that doesn't seem like a lot, but I find that amazing. That means at most 50 people enjoy my content and want to watch and support me later on, and I find that outstanding, and I want to thank everyone who's decided to do that. And if you're new and watching this video and you enjoyed this style of video, why not consider hitting that subscribe button, and maybe tune into my other, and maybe look back at my past videos and see if you like those if you want to make your subscription decision. Because I'm trying to grow on this platform, you know, I'm trying to make something out of this. I know it probably sounds really petty, probably sounds like I'm begging, but you know, I'm just trying to make this shit work, because I find YouTube and I find all this stuff to be the most fun I've had in the longest time. Of course, if you enjoyed this video, leave a like, because not only does that show that you enjoy the style of video, but it also directly supports the channel, and it's free. Both subscribing and liking the video is free, so I don't see why you wouldn't want to do that if you enjoyed it. And as always, my social medias are linked in the description. I'm actually getting back into streaming. The day this video is uploaded, I should be streaming. I don't know when. You can follow my Twitter for an update on if you want to know when I'm streaming or not, or when I upload. And that was the entire video. Again, consider all the things I said before: liking, subscribing, following my social medias and my Twitch. Tune into the next. I hope to see you guys next time in the next video. It was fun. It was fun to make this video again, and I'm happy to make more if you guys enjoy it. My name is Paul. I hope you all have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Peace out, everyone.